Hello and welcome to ACC Tips and Tricks, Improving Collaboration and Reducing Rework. Okay, fun fact. I'm going to start off with a fun fact. So if the registrations translates into attendees, you will have attended one of Baker Bain's biggest webinars to date. So you can give yourself a pat on the back, and I'll be clapping my virtual hand for you for making history. So well done. A little bit about the agenda, what we're going to be discussing today. So I'm going to go through an introduction about the company and about me and an intro into the platform. And then we're going to be discussing the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform, model management, construction operations, and then we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So judging by the registrations or attendees, I'm anticipating lots of questions. A little bit about Baker Bain's. We are heavily involved in consulting, creating needs analysis and workflow assessments to identify which software you can incorporate in your workflow and overall improve it. We've got 2 Autodesk accredited classrooms, or training centers rather, one in Johannesburg and one in Cape Town. I'm Cape Town based, so you will expect to see me there, where we teach you about the Autodesk software. We are an Autodesk Gold partner, so that is the status as to our resellership, and it just gives you some reassurance that we know what we're doing. So we are involved in the building, civil, energy, and process plant and manufacturing industries. So a lot of our advice and consulting is around the agro industry there. A little bit about me. So my name is David Pearson. I've been a technical BIM specialist here at Baker Bain's for about 2 years now. On the top right, you'll see my Autodesk accreditations, and you'll notice that I am an Autodesk certified instructor. Things about me, you can ask me. I provide a lot of consulting and training on Civil 3D, Revit, and the overall Construction Cloud platform. And you'll notice that I'm also a ISO 19650 BIM standard practitioner. So we're going to kick off with a little poll. So just to give me an indication as to who I'm dealing with within this webinar. All right, so Angelique or Zach, if you can initiate that poll for me. And basically the poll is a simple one. So what best describes your role? Are you a project manager, superintendent, engineer, executive, or leadership, admin or support, or other? I'll give you about a minute to fill that in for me, please. Mapari, if I can ask you to read out the results for me, if you'd be so kind.
Okay, David. 12% of the people in the webinar are project managers, and we have 36% engineers and 46% others. So yes, we have a lot of engineers, which is 36%.
Okay, brilliant. So I kind of expected that, and you will. This webinar will speak to your discipline. So the updates in this webinar are quite project management specific. So that does make sense. Thank you for partaking in that poll. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an overview or an introduction as to what the Autodesk Construction Cloud platform is. If you're relatively new to the platform, this will give you a a fair idea as to what ACC will offer you. Okay, so on the far left, we've got Autodesk Docs. So that is your file repository. That is your single source of truth. It promotes transparency. So you have the most up-to-date versions of documents throughout the project's lifecycle. So if you have subscribed or purchased into any of the other modules, such as BIM Collaborate Pro, Takeoff, or Build, you'll notice that you get docs with it. It just does make sense because you need all that information to be able to utilize all the tools and features within the other products. Okay, so next on the agenda is BIM Collaborate Pro. So this is where you're going to be performing your clash detections. All right, so you're going to be creating coordination spaces and ultimately creating federated models to perform those clash detections. And the whole idea is to mitigate any errors that could arise on site. And you will do that by performing clash detections and assigning issues to relevant people or project members. Also, another aspect of BIM Collaborate Pro is Revit Cloud work sharing. So you are able to have multiple people working on the same model at the same time. So you're going to be synchronizing your changes to a central model, and the model will live in the cloud. Next on the list is Autodesk Takeoff. So this is designed for your quantity surveyors to perform 2D and 3D takeoffs, and ultimately to perform competitive bids. Okay, so you want to use this as a quantifying tool. And then we've got our Build, Autodesk Build product. So this is for your project managers, so your main contractors. So you'll have tools such as RFIs, submittals, uploading your Microsoft project schedules, and having a conversation around that. You'll also have nice features such as conducting your Teams or Zoom meetings in the cloud, setting that up and an agenda around that, and having your own project email address so you can keep everything on the platform. All right. We've also got our Workshop XR, so that is your virtual reality. So if you've ever seen people wear those goggles and they look like they, walking in space, that is our Workshop XR, and Tandem, which is your digital twin. All right, but just remember that Docs comes with any other product that you purchase into. All right, so you may have heard the news. You may only be hearing the news from me, but Autodesk is doing away with the names Autodesk Docs, BIM Collaborate Pro, Takeoff, and Build. So what is going on? I mean, this seems pretty radical. So it's being renamed Former Data Management, Former Design Collaboration, Former Takeoff, and Former Build. All right, so it's amalgamating with Former, Autodesk Former. So this serves as the unified AI native data spine for the new Autodesk Former Industry Cloud. So you're probably thinking, what does this mean for you? What does this mean for me? All right, okay. Well, nothing really. It's the same trusted experience. You'll have access to the same tools and functionality. All right, your projects are not compromised in any way. So you can breathe a sigh of relief that this is going to be the case. So it's pretty much just a rebranding, a bit of a facelift, but yeah, your overall experience will remain unchanged. But we're going to be keeping you updated. So please don't ignore our emails. It's there to keep you in the loop, keep you updated as to the changes regarding this. All right, so we're going to dive right into it. We're going to have a look at the Construction Cloud platform and what that has to offer as a whole. So the way I've designed this webinar is we've got tips and tricks. So the tip is generally a feature that is already existing, and the trick is the new addition to that tool or functionality. So these updates come from November last year, and we're looking at January 2026, the latest additions to the cloud. All right, the first one is making use of attributes. I want you to make use of attributes. So there is generally a misconsensus about what attributes actually are and what they're designed to achieve. Attributes are metadata. So they are pockets of information that you can use to help identify the particular document or information at any given time. So I like to think of this as identifiers. So it's small identifiers in terms of tags that you can use in your robust filtering tools to be able to bring up the most relevant information at any given time. Okay, so it's very simple to create attributes, and you can create as many as you want. And you'll notice that within the platform, you've got a lot of default ISO 19650 attributes that you can use as part of your naming convention as well. But what can you use with this? So in conjunction to the attributes is automated drawing extraction. So this makes use of machine learning and being able to extract that metadata and to form part of the attributes that you've created. So let's have a look at this. So what you can do is you can create a template. So this is a generic company title block that you use most often. So your company title blocks are generally not going to change. They're going to remain the same. So the information is always going to be in a specific area on that title block. What you'll need to do is just assign those attributes that you've created. Okay. And zoom up into the space. And what you're going to do is draw an extraction box around the area of information you want to relate to that specific attribute. This is an incredible feature, a new addition to the software, and I'm very excited about this. So what I like about this as well is the boxes are color-coded. So you can see exactly what box is relating to which specific attribute that you have designed. Okay, so this is basically a once-off thing, and you can extract it from a particular title block. Give it a name and save, as easy as that. I'm going to show you what it will look like when we perform the extraction. So I'm going to go to a list of PDF documents, and I'm going to select the PDF documents that I want to perform this extraction. All right, and it gives you an opportunity to select a specific title block. Once you've identified that, you'll notice it will start capturing all those attributes that you've assigned. This process, depending on the amount of documents that you have selected, might take a couple of minutes, but it's not. There's no lag in the process, in other words. All right, so we've extracted those documents, and what we'll need to do is just turn on those attributes in the file, and you'll see that all that information has been extracted from that particular document. So this is metadata that you can then filter out or you can find exactly what you need. A nice example would be who actually drew the who signed off the document, okay, or who was responsible for the creation of the construction drawing. So you can use that in your filtering tools. Okay, another tip is master review workflows. Okay, so this is incredibly important. Okay, a lot of you are still using the old school way of doing things, which is sending documents for review via email. I won't bash it too much, but I'll just give you how you can use the platform to serve this purpose. So this will involve creating a review workflow. Okay, this is a very user-friendly way of assigning channels, okay, assigning people to the respective parts of the review process. So initiator will generally be the person that's sending the document for review. We've got an initial reviewer and a final reviewer. So this is generally what you're going to see in the two-part review workflow. And you can also create a copy of that document to a particular file. So once the document is approved, it will create a copy of that and store it in a particular file. And you can call it all approved documents. Okay. So what I'm looking for is here, if you master it, you're looking at being able to create review workflows and creating auto triggers. And you can also notify the initiators of this particular workflow. You're probably asking, what is new to this? Well, within auto trigger, and this will give you a bit of an intro as to what it is. So auto trigger is basically kickstarting that review workflow. So it's automating a review workflow based on particular conditions. And the new part of this is that you are now able to kickstart a review workflow based on file formats. Okay, so we can add a particular file format and you can create a specific equation, file types, and you'll see you will have access to over 80 different file formats that the platform can read. All right, and then you would just go about selecting that particular workflow. So generally what you're doing is if you're uploading a document to a specific folder, it will automatically kickstart the review workflow, provided that the file or the model is a particular file format. Okay, so we're going to move on to tip number 3, use file packages for better project visibility. So there's a misconception about what file packages actually are, but that's what's nice about ACC. You can use the tools the way you see fit. Okay, so generally file packages are information that you can group together in a package, but what's nice about it is that you can add different versions of the same document. Okay, and generally you're going to be using these packages to exchange with other stakeholders or shareholders. All right, and what's also nice about packages is you'll notice that in the platform as a whole, you can't really copy. If the document is within the platform, you can't really make a copy and then paste that copy into multiple different files. But with packages, you are able to do that. So you're able to create a copy in multiple different packages. You've also got permissions around packages, and so you want to put that in place to ensure that not just anyone accesses that particular package. Okay, but what's new about this is that you can now add references to packages. So this is a fairly simple trick, all right, but it's a necessary one. So you weren't able to always add references to packages, but now you can. And that's what it just promotes the transparency and the cross-reference throughout the platform as a whole. So everything speaks to everything else in the platform. So that's what's ACC, or should I say Autodesk Forma, is wanting to achieve right here. All right, for those of you who don't know Desktop Connector, I urge you to have a look into it. So if you are have Autodesk Docs as a minimum, you're going to want to have local access to your cloud-based platform. So I say locally, you're going to have much like where you would see OneDrive. It will be within your Windows Explorer, and you're able to channel through different folders, much like within the cloud, creating copies of the file or files in that folder structure, or moving files to the relevant places. So you don't have to go into the web browser and do that online. But what's new about this, and this is the trick that I'm giving you about Desktop Connector, is that you are now able to bring up the file properties without accessing the cloud. So that is something that is quite useful to you, right? So you want to know what the properties are, who updated the document last, what is the file size, what is the format. So it helps identify the model locally. So this is also a simple trick, but very handy. It will please a lot of people, shall I say. Okay, so now we're going to look into the model management side of things. Okay, so we're going to boost your workflow with proactive clash detection. So if you have BIM Collaborate Pro, I urge you and I encourage you to start practicing clash detection within the platform. Okay, a lot of people like using the Navisworks to do this, but within the platform, it's becoming increasingly apparent that you can perform close to the same functionality, or achieve close to the same functionality as you would within the Navisworks application. All right, so you are going to set up your coordination spaces, and you're going to create federated models or combined models to be able to perform those clashes. Okay, what's nice about this is your clashes are color-coded, so you can easily identify that. And you can create issues around that particular clash. So with issues, you can assign the ball in court or the responsibility to a particular project member to action immediately. So that is our clash detection side of things. But what's new? If you've harnessed that ability with clash detection in the platform, you can make use of the new feature called clash grouping via other metadata. So what does this look like? If you access a coordination space and you access models that are clashing, you'll be taken to the model view or the federated model, which you will then be confronted by all the clashes that exist within this model comparison. But instead of just being able to group the clashes by object, now you're able to group the clashes by family type, level, object name, or work set. So what's brilliant about this is that if you've grouped a particular work set, you know that Pit Pompey's is dealing with this particular work set. So you are able to then assign issues a lot more accurately in terms of who is responsible for rectifying that. Okay, so clash detection will work in the same way. So you just click on the clash group and you'll be taken to the part of the drawing that is clashing. And then you can proceed by assigning issues to that. So this is quite an obvious clash. So we've got two types of staircases clashing with each other. And because you now know the work set, you can approach the right people at the right time. Okay. So you're probably thinking properties. I know properties, right? Properties is like a given. Okay, so just this is like an appendix, and I'm working my way into what is going to be next. So, as you know, properties is information within a 3D model. Okay, so properties and parameters work hand in hand within a given Revit model. And you can create multiple properties if you want to. And it's just information or pockets of information you want to have within those objects of the particular model and use as identifiers. So tell me something new. Okay. So once you've harnessed the ability for properties, you can make use of extended parameters or extended properties within the platform. Let's have a look what this looks like. Okay, so within your model coordination of BIM Collaborate Pro, you're able to then assign new properties or metadata to specific objects within the model. Okay, so you'll see that we can group assign properties to multiple categories. Okay, so a nice example would be your fire rating. So if you want to ensure that all the doors per se have a fire rating of 90 minutes, you can use this tool within the platform to identify all the particular doors that don't have a fire rating of 90, select them, and bulk populate that metadata. All right, so the purpose of this extended properties, it's designed for you. You don't have to open up the application to do this. You can do it directly in the platform, which is very convenient to a lot of people. Okay, so within model coordination, you can use this in conjunction with the color-coded tool to further identify all the fire rating of 90 minutes per se. Save that view into Autodesk Docs and exchange it with the various stakeholders or project members. All right, now we're looking at construction operations. So when I think of construction operations, we are looking at the Autodesk Build product. Okay, so we're going to use specifications for easy reference. I encourage you to use this tool. I'm just going to pause that quickly. I would say it's the most underrated tool within the platform. A lot of people sort of overlook it or sort of don't use it. But once you get to know it, you will learn that this is an extremely powerful tool, making use of AI and machine learning to be able to sift through quite a vast amount of data at any given time. So I'm just going to backtrack quickly. Just 1 second. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're creating a digital version of your specification document. Okay, so once you've published it to the cloud, you'll notice that we've now got a digital version in masterclass or uniclass format, depending on what you are working with. So what you can do now is you can use the robust filtering tools to be able to find exactly what information you require at any given time. So this is designed for the guys on site. They don't want to be sifting through a 500-page specification document to find what is relevant to them. They can just use keywords and be taken to exactly where their scope of works is at any given time. All right, what's nice about this is you can also reference throughout the platform. So you can add references as you see fit. So as I said before, I encourage you to reference as much as possible. Okay, so this speaks to everything else within the platform, and it creates that connected environment where you can cross-reference. All right, so on the cell phone application, the guys on site will see something similar to this, where they will go into the Construction Cloud mobile app and access all your divisions and your spec sections quite easily. And as you do in the web app, you can use the filtering tools provided to sift through specific information. And you'll be taken to the particular part within the document with those particular keywords. Okay. So what's new? AI for specifications. So AI is becoming an integral part of your life, whether you like it or not. But this is how Autodesk has started to use AI. All right, it's using it to take the labor intensiveness out of your workflow and to focus more on the design. So that is their goals and objectives here. So a little bit, so this is available to the general audience, your Autodesk Assistant. It used to be in beta phase, but now it's available for us to use. So once you've got your specification digital copy in the cloud, we can literally have a conversation like you are having a conversation in ChatGPT, for instance. A very informal way of talking, okay? So this is going to help you identify what you need within this particular document. Okay, so just to give it a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds, and it'll bring up all the information and it'll tell you, it'll reference to the physical document itself. So we can access this link, which will take us to the actual document. Give it a couple of seconds to load, and there we are. So exactly the same as your filtering tools. Now you can phrase it in any which way you like using AI. Okay, so the next tip is to make use of schedules or schedule management. So this is definitely going to optimize your workflow. So you can interchange between list and Gantt view from your schedule. And just bear in mind, you can upload your schedules from Microsoft Projects or Excel. Use the robust filtering techniques to search through relevant information as you are with every other technique. You can use the quick look tool, which will look a certain time frame ahead and before to help determine the scope of works in a particular time frame. Okay, you can also share this view with particular project members that do not necessarily have permission to see this schedule. You can interchange between viewing and suggesting mode. So what this is you're making a suggestion to your manager that there's going to be a cost implication or there's going to be a delay to the schedule in terms of this particular task. Okay, so we are talking about, we are expecting 70% chance of inclement weather, and you can advise accordingly. Okay, so you can submit it to your manager, and the manager will see that there is something in review, and to his own discretion, he can allow this change and it will reflect within your schedules. It's also part of schedule management. If you're familiar with it, you'll know that you can create plans of action. So this is basically a swim lane or a flow diagram of your particular task or scope of works. You can further categorize it into work breakdown structure or role or company, who is responsible for this particular task to be actioned. And you can literally move the task into those particular categories. You can interchange between swim lane and list view to easily assign those tasks to particular project members. Okay, this is a nice feature. It is future handoffs, future and previous handoffs. So basically, before a certain task can be accomplished, other tasks need to be done first. So you are building your plan of action. Okay, so that's basically what plans are. And I urge you to get started with this as soon as you possibly can. So with these tasks, you can also export it into an Excel document. So what is new? So a new feature within plans is the ability to commit to tasks. Okay, so this is something that wasn't readily available to you previously, but you'll notice now that you can lock a specific task. So during your meetings, coordination meetings or morning meetings, project members assigned to these particular tasks are now going to commit to those tasks. Okay, but you know, not everything in a project, as you know full well, will actually materialize according to plan. So we might have to adjust that slightly. All right, so to adjust it, we can go to that little lock at the top once again, and it's called replan. So if you were to replan, you will have to give a root cause as to why you are replanning this particular commitment. Okay, so you can't just say, oh, I don't feel like doing it today. I'm just going to, there has to be a reason as to why you're making those changes. But just bear in mind that if you are making a replan for a particular task within your plan, it will definitely compromise the other commitments that are going to happen further along the line. Okay, so if you've harnessed the ability to use plans and commitments, one of the updates to this is plan metrics. So this is basically an executive overview as to the percentage of percentage of people that have committed to the plans that have actually followed through with the plan of action. So as you are going about your updating your swim lane as to the completion of this particular task, you will now see a executive overview or insights as to what root causes, what are the main root causes as to why certain plans or committed plans haven't worked out as planned. Okay, so this is a very, very useful tool to be able to look into the reasoning behind why tasks aren't being accomplished within a particular time frame. All right, a simple but a goodie. So the tip 9 that I'm looking at is reference to work plan in Autodesk Build. So previously you weren't able to reference work plan tasks throughout the platform, but now you can do it in RFIs. So basically anything, whether it be issues, specifications, submittals, you can now reference plan tasks throughout the platform. So this is one of those simple tools that you can use, and you might see it as it's not really that great, but it means a lot to a lot of people. And it's the type of tool that you would have thought existed, but you don't want to have a wake-up call only to discover that you can't accomplish what you need to. So it's nice to know that we do have this ability now. Okay, so if we have looked at, if you know what forms are, I urge you to collaborate with ACC forms. So this is a tip, a very important one. And if you don't know what forms are, it's basically a digital collaboration to populate a form, right? So you're not going to have a physical copy which you hand out to various people to write out physically on a page. We're going to be doing this within the platform. So you can have multiple members collaborating on one form. You can have particular parts of the form that is assigned to particular project members to fill out. All right. And we can also assign conditional logic to these. So in other words, if you said yes to something, well, then substantiate it with an issue or an RFI or a submittal. So you can add reinforcing documentation to that as well. So explore the form builder readily available within the Build platform. It's going to change the world. It definitely changed mine. Okay, but what's new? This is actually quite an impressive one. It's creating custom form tables. Okay, you weren't able to create form tables, but now you can. All right, and you'll see that the table with a big new sign is sitting next to it. Okay, so you'll go about giving the table a name, and you'll tell the form builder how many columns you would want to implement in this particular form. So if you're tracking the issues on site, okay, you can create a form that speaks to that. Okay, so this is a very relatively user-friendly form build or part of the form builder. So you can basically just jump into it and start building those tables. All right, so what I'm doing now is you'll notice that all these headings need to be filled out in a particular way. So you can create a drop down. So the person filling in the form will need to select from a particular drop down. You can create the section as just normal text in which they'll fill in, or it can be a date and a time, currency, and that sort of thing. Okay, so those are the options that I'm providing to those drop downs. Yes, no, maybe. And once you've built the form, let's start filling it in. So this is what it will look like when you start populating the table. So the guy on site can quickly go and add a table and have multiple entries to that table. Okay, so you'll notice there's a button to add the particular table, and those are your columns that you are now filling out. Okay, so the time recorded, the issue type, the root cause, always a good one. And you can go about populating that. What's nice about this is you can add as multiple entries of forms into this, so you're not limited in any way. So I've added one. Now I can add another, proceed as I want to. Okay, so if we look at library and account administration, you'll notice that you will have forms, a form library. Okay, so you can keep track of all your forms, all your company forms in one place, and assign permissions to who can access those forms and download them to their projects. But now what you can do is you can copy library-owned forms. So if you see this symbol within your project, you'll know that this is a library-owned form. And you can basically create a copy of that form and you can customize it as you wish. So you are not compromising a form that lives within the library necessarily. Okay, so RFIs. So request for information can be quite a headache because it can come in the form of a WhatsApp message, an SMS, or an email. There's so many disconnected ways of that data coming to you. So RFI, there's a full audit trail as to all the RFI depending on what status it currently has. So everything is in one place. With RFIs, you'll know it has to go through a review process. So that is called a review workflow, which is setting up your ball in court. Who is the RFI manager that is responsible for actioning this? A due date, delay to schedule, root cause, all of those can be set up. But I urge you to use RFIs because it just keeps everything in one place within the platform. But now we've got AI for RFI creation. So AI is definitely becoming more and more part of our life here, especially in AC environment. So what will this look like? We can ask AI to fill out a RFI for us. So you can use a very informal language of explaining what the uncertainty is or the clarification of information that you require. And it'll take a couple of seconds to generate that, but it's color coded. So all the AI entries are in purple. And just bear in mind that, just a bit of a warning, AI is not always going to be 100% correct. So always read through your stuff? Does it make sense? And then send it as you see fit. Okay, so what are assets? This is another tool within Build, Autodesk Build. So you will have your asset categories, your custom fields, which is your asset categories will be your doors, windows, walls, roof, ceilings, all of that. Custom fields is everything you want to find out about that particular asset. Always a status assigned to it. So has it been ordered, delivered to site, and you can assign permissions for anyone in the project to be able to access those particular assets. So within the ACC, this is what it will look like. So you can assign references to particular assets that you are tracking. And in the mobile version, this is what it also looks like, where you can create multiple different manual entries of assets and capture barcodes of that asset as extra information or reference. But what I want to get into here is use ACC for asset management. So this is quite incredible. If you are involved in asset management, I urge you to look into this. So bringing in a Revit model and creating those asset categories, such as your doors, windows, walls, and recording the assets' custom attributes is definitely the way to go. Okay, so you can see here that we are just updating and populating those custom attributes that we've created pertaining to those particular assets. And if you click on a particular asset, you'll be taken to it directly in the model, where you can then further substantiate or add references to those assets. Okay, so what does it look like in the cell phone version of this? So if you're very good at playing games in your cell phone, you will have, you'll be fully equipped for using this. So you can do it in exactly the same way. You can access the model and record all your assets categories from there. So all your custom fields can be updated. So you can basically just zoom up into the area, click on the particular asset you want to manage, and change the status. What's nice about this is once you change the status, this is color coded. So it will then change the color as well. All right, and lastly, export as-built data for project handover. So within account administration or project administration rather, you are able to extract all projects information and export it for that project handover. So you can download a zip file of all the information that you want to include as part of your handover documentation. And what's new about this is that you are now able to incorporate assets and asset categories within your handover documentation as well. So all the assets, you can choose which assets you want to incorporate in the documentation and then extract that and download as a zip file to give to your client. All right, so key takeaways from this automate, and organize. So I urge you to use those attributes, the drawing extraction, file packages, and references. Okay, so this is going to streamline your workflow like you won't believe. So another way to streamline your workflow is auto triggers with reviews. So get in touch with Desktop Connector, because then you won't have to go to the cloud every time you want to make an update. Okay, so use Desktop Connector and visually see your properties of your models and documents. Coordinate smarter. So master that clash detection. Create those coordination spaces, create those federated models, and start using the grouping tools available to you to help make better decisions. Enhance field collaboration. So use specifications, RFIs, forms, and AI to alleviate the donkey work involved in the amount of AIs that are RFIs that are coming through. And lastly, use plans as part of schedule management to be able to formulate plan of actions and assign those tasks to the relevant people to action accordingly. So with all that, how can we help you? We solve our customer problems through digital solution, if you haven't heard, helping you to design and make a better world. And with that, I will kindly request either Zach or Angelique to initiate the next poll, because I want to see how we can help you. Zach, have we initiated that poll?
Yes, David.
Is it?
Okay, so thank you very much for partaking in this poll. It will give us an accurate representation. I'm sure it will give us an accurate representation as to how we can further assist you. So whether it be a needs analysis, training, if you need help on a specific application to learn it, implementation. So as I said before, there are a couple of ISO 19650 practitioners in the house today, so we can definitely assist you in your BIM implementation and ACC template creation. If you haven't heard about transformation tools, this is our on our website, and a couple of the new ebooks available to us is Autodesk Construction Cloud Get Up for Success. So this is primarily geared towards template creation in the Docs, Build, and BIM Collaborate Pro plugins. All right, and one of the newer additions to transformation tools is our Autodesk Content Catalog. We are able to extract and create libraries of families within Revit and allow permissions for people to be able to use that within their Revit projects. All right, are there any questions? If there are no questions, or while you're thinking about a particular question, this is our website. We've got LinkedIn, and we are quite heavily involved in the social media platforms. Use YouTube as well to have a look at past webinars that we've created. So there's a lot of content readily available and free for you to consume. Yes, we've got a question. If there's any, I'm not sure, I can't hear you. Are we able?
Hi there. Anybody with a question, please use the chat box available and David will answer your questions live.
Mpari, if you could read out the question to me. I don't have the screen readily available for me. If there is a question in the chat box, I can answer that.
Okay, there is actually one. Is it possible to open project without the cloud? At the time, remote work is done in Revit and no internet connection. So I think Richard is asking if it's possible to open a project without the cloud if you don't have any internet connection.
So it depends how you would want to open up the project. If it's through a Autodesk application and you're still busy working on the project to create changes within that, that is one thing. But you won't be able to visually use the Autodesk platform with no internet connection. But you can work offline, and then updates will then be synchronized once saved.
I think maybe just to add, from a mobile device point of view, you can have a kind of like similar to what David had just mentioned, you can have a downloaded version of specific things on the mobile device so that you can interact with that. And then once you're back in an area with connectivity, it'll update. A similar thing applies to the desktop connector. However, if you have no internet, you won't be able to go on the web-based browser and interact with Construction Cloud. There is a second question, David, regarding, please confirm which product comes from the Docs Forma product. I think I'll just elaborate on that. So Autodesk Docs, as it is at the moment, is included in the Architecture, Engineering and Construction collection. Forma, which is Forma Site Design, that you may be familiar with, your site design and conceptual tool, is also in the AEC collection, but the Forma platform is expanding. So think of Forma as kind of like the collective noun, and then under the Forma platform, you'll have Forma Docs and so forth. And Forma Docs will be available as a standalone purchase within your AEC collection, or then Forma Docs will be included if you buy Forma Build, Forma Takeoff, and so forth. I hope that answers the question. That is the only questions that I see, David. If there's any other questions, you've got our details on the screen and you're welcome to get in touch.
All right, in closing, thank you very much, everyone that has sacrificed their Friday or 1 hour of their Friday to have a look at me talk about Construction Cloud. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Until next time.